Hello everyone. Imagine giving your application the power to understand meaning, not just keywords, and doing it instantly anywhere in the world. That's what Cloudflare Vectorize delivers. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a globally distributed vector database, generate AI embeddings, and run blazing fast semantic searches all at the edge without managing any servers. Stick around because by the end, you'll be ready to build your own AI-powered search in minutes. But before we get started, thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing the videos. Also, check out our product, cloudmysite.com, and also subscribe to our newsletter for latest cloud trends and trending technology. With this, let's get started. What is Cloudflare Vectorize? Vectorize is a globally distributed vector database that enables you to build full-stack AI-powered applications with Cloudflare workers. Think of Cloudflare Vectorize as your application's super-powered librarian, except this one lives everywhere in the world at once, never sleeps, and can find what you want faster than you can, say, AI. Instead of just searching for the exact words you type, Vectorize understands meaning. It can match your cute dog search to a picture of a fluffy golden retriever or relaxing music to an audio clip that feels like a spa day. Businesses use it for all kinds of things. Shopping, find me shoes like these, and it actually gets it right. Customer service, instantly suggest relevant help articles before you even finish typing your problem. Streaming, recommend movies that actually match your vibe. Not just because you watched one rom-com in 2018. And here's the cool part. All this runs on Cloudflare's global network, so your search results pop in milliseconds, even if your user is sipping coffee in Paris while your data is hanging out in Tokyo. There are no extra servers, no complicated setup, just plug in into Cloudflare's workers, toss in your AI-generated embeddings, which is a fancy word for math-y, fingerprints of text, images, or audio, and you've got instant intelligence search. In short, it is like giving your application a brain without giving yourself a headache. A few use cases are semantic search, something we'll get into, recommendations, anomaly detection, LLM context support. Alright, let's talk about what Vectorize can actually do for you. First up, think of it as your very own brain in the cloud. You can spin up a vector database faster than you can brew a cup of coffee. Store all those AI-generated embeddings, basically math fingerprints, of your text, images, or even sound, and keep them ready for lightning-fast lookups. Next, Workers AI make your app smarter by understanding what people mean, not just what they type. It's like teaching your application a new language, the language of meaning. So when someone searches for fuzzy buddy, it means that it knows they mean dog, and not that old sweater hiding in the closet. And finally, the search feels almost psychic. With Vectorize and auto-RAG, retrieval augmented generation, your data gets automatically indexed and ready to deliver scarily accurate, context-aware answers. Think of it as you having a know-it-all friend who for once is actually right most of the time. So yeah, Vectorize isn't just a tool, it's a superpower for your applications. With this, let's set up Vectorize. For you will need a Cloudflare account. If you have not already, go and create a Cloudflare account. As mentioned in the earlier videos, it doesn't cost much. In fact, until you use the resources, a lot of the services are free in Cloudflare. Secondly, you need to install NPM, which is Node Performance Manager. And this is the tool, and there would be a lot of documentation out there along with tutorials on how you can install NPM. But just ensure you have NPM on your local system. And also you will need node.js. So you could use a node version manager like Volta or NVM to avoid permission issues and change Node.js versions. Wrangler, which we're going to be requiring as part of Cloudflare. So first, we'll create a worker. What is a worker? Worker is about a serverless execution model that is part of the Cloudflare setup. Drop in a comment if you want to know what exactly is a worker. I'll create a new project. This project will contain a worker which will act as the client application for your Vectorize index. Click yes, I do want to install. It will take a few. And it's asking me what would you like to start with. We can choose Hello World example, the worker only, the TypeScript. So for this one, we will choose a Hello World. We will leave it default SSR full stack app and you click next. And language also we leave it as TypeScript. And this will proceed with creating the project. It'll take a few minutes for the dependencies and other software to be installed. Now this is installing Wrangler, which is a command line tool for building Cloudflare workers. Do you want to use Git for version control? As of this tutorial, I don't really need to use it, so I'll click no. But in your enterprise applications, do click yes. Do you want to deploy your application? Yes, I do want to deploy my application. The Cloudflare worker for the Vectorize has been set up. So let's check out Cloudflare dashboard because this is where you will be able to see it. So in Cloudflare console, this is where you will see the Vectorize YouTube created. You can see the deployment that was done and you can also check out the URL. So this is the folder where I had created the Vectorize setup. And if I check the contents, I will see the structure. And if I go into the SRC, which is what is for the SSR, which is Node.js, I will see index.ts file, which is what is our content was shown in the browser. Now let's create an index. So a vector database is distinct from a traditional SQL or NoSQL database. A vector database is designed to store vector embeddings, which are representations of data, but not the original data itself. So that's a key differentiator between traditional databases and vector database. So to create our first Vectorize index, we have already navigated into the directory and we will create an index. We first need to use the Wrangler Vectorize create command. Here I need to give the index name as well. In this case, I'll give YouTube index to have the name created. I need to provide both a dimension and a metric. And the dimension I could give is, like this is the dimension equal to 32 and metric equal to Euclidean. Or if you want Wrangler to autofill dimensions, a metric for a known embedding model, I can give the specific option as well. So dimension equal to 32, what it means is the number of values of features in each vector you store in the index. Why it matters? When your ML model creates an embedding for a piece of text, image or audio, that embedding is just a long list of numbers. The list length depends on the model. For example, if you provide the BGE small vn, it will give 384 dimension. And why we are using 32 in this tutorial? The Cloudflare Quick Start uses 32 as a tiny demo-friendly number for manually entering vectors, not for real production embeddings. And metric, we had given Euclidean. So what exactly it is? The method Vectorize uses to measure similarity between vectors when you query. And the metric decides how closeness is calculated. Euclidean measures straight line distance between points. It is the classic geometry distance. Alternatives, if we didn't want to use Euclidean, we could have chosen cosine, which compares angle between vectors, ignores magnitude, focuses on meaning. Dot product measures overlap, magnitude directly. The choice depends on your ML model and use case. Many embedding models recommend cosine for semantic search. But because it's a tutorial, we decided to just have Euclidean. It created the YouTube index and it created a new Vectorize index. We could, to start going for worker, add the following binding configuration to our wrangler.json file. Now open the particular project in your code editor. Now we need to bind our worker to the index. So for which we must create a binding for our worker to connect to our Vectorize index. What is a binding? Bindings allow our worker to access resources like Vectorize or R2 from Cloudflare workers. You create bindings by updating the workers Wrangler file. So at the end of this, and I can delete the others. I don't think I'll be needing them, just to keep it clean. After this, add the index name we created. Ensure it is correct. And this will be the format to enter. Save it. Now, specifically, the value string that we have set for binding, which is this, will be used to reference the database in our worker. And we have given the name Vectorize. You could give any other name if required. The binding must be a valid JavaScript variable name. For example, if you give binding lowercase equal to my underscore index or binding equal to prod underscore search underscore index would both be valid names for the binding. Your binding is available in your worker at env.binding_name. And the Vectorize client API is exposed on the binding for use within your worker's application. So now, this is an optional step. We will create metadata indexes. Vectorize allows you to add up to 10 KB of metadata per vector into your index, and also provides the ability to filter on that metadata while querying vectors. To do so, you would need to specify a metadata field as a metadata index for your Vectorize index. So when to create metadata indexes? So as of today, the metadata fields on which vectors can be filtered need to be specified before the vectors are inserted. And it is recommended that these metadata fields are specified right after the creation of a Vectorize index. We come back to the command prompt and use a command like this, where we are saying we are creating a metadata index for YouTube index. So this will create the metadata index, and the URL is the metadata field on which filtering would be enabled. And the type parameter, it defines the data type for the metadata field. In this case, it can be a string, but you could also choose number and Boolean types because all these three are supported. Now, we can check the list of metadata indexes by running command, where we are saying what are the metadatas that are currently existing. And this is the metadata that is there for URL. For the particular index, this is URL and string. We can create up to 10 metadata indexes per Vectorize index. And for metadata index of type number, the index number precision is that of root 64. So now we will create a few vectors, because before we can query a vector database, we need to insert vectors for it to query against. These vectors would be generated from data such as text or images you pass to a machine learning model. However, this tutorial will define static vectors to illustrate how vector search works on its own. Okay, back in Visual Studio Code, go to the SRC, open your index.ts file that was created as part of the project setup. We don't need any of this content, and we are going to have the following code snippet in your index.ts file. You need to replace this with Vectorize. Ensure whatever name you have given, just choose that. This is the binding. And these are a few sample products that are entered, which is the URL and SKU. We have defined a binding to our Vectorize index from our workers code. This binding matches the binding value that we have set in the wrangler.jsonc. This is where you see this is the binding, and it both need to match. And we have specified a set of example vectors that we will query against the next step. And these are the example vectors that we have provided. And we are inserting those vectors into the index and confirm it was successful. Now we need to deploy the code, for which we come back here and type Wrangler deploy. So we will see it is reading the assets, upload, it is uploading, and it is proceeding with deployment. And it is, you see, it has access to the vector uploaded. This is the new deployment. Let's check the same out in the Cloudflare console. Now in Cloudflare, we can see this was recently deployed, and this is where you see that this is nothing to do yet, random, but the deployment was done. That's the latest deployment. The index is empty because /insert hasn't been called. So let's call /insert. Go to this URL and type /insert, and we will get this response. This executes the code and inserts the sample vectors into our vectorize index. And because we got the mutation ID to confirm the index, so now we can run the query. We only need to call /insert once unless you want to change the data. If you redeploy the worker without deleting the index, your vectors are still going to be there. But if you delete or recreate the index, you will need to run insert again. Now, we also need to query the vectors that are inserted, for which we will come back to the index.ts file and add a dimension, which is after this line. We add another constant for the dimensions. We remove this. This is for the dimensions we are going to be using. Now, what we are saying is we also are using a URL for querying where we get the data that back. We need to deploy this because if we change the index.ts file, we go back to the command line and deploy. Run wrangler deploy. This will push the code to our Cloudflare setup. It's pretty simple using Cloudflare Wrangler, something you all should check it out. We can see the deployment is done successfully, and we can click this to a /query to see the data. So what this query, it's saying that here are the top 3 most similar items I could find to the vector you just sent me. Let me take the response and put it in a JSON format. So this is where it's saying, okay, true. These are the 3 matches. And this is the first one with ID is 4. This is the unique ID. We gave that vector when we inserted it, and the score is 0.46. This is the score, and this is the similarity measure. The lower score equals to more similar because our index was Euclidean distance. 0 would mean an exact match. 1 would be more distant. Greater than 1 means not very similar. These are the values that are the actual numbers we inserted earlier. This is ID 4. And these were the values that we had inserted. So this is what it is outputting us. This is higher, so it is farther away from the search. ID number 4 is the closest, which is 41813. Now back to Cloudflare, click Vectorize, and we will see our index created where we had provided the dimension and Euclidean as the metric. If we click on this, you will see the number of queries against it. For the last 100%, the vectors that we have stored and querying latency. Now you all would be thinking that I manually inserted these decimal numbers 0.17, 0.29. What do I do with this in the real world? In the real world scenarios, we are not going to manually come up with these numbers. These numbers come from an embedding model, a piece of AI that takes something human readable like text, an image or audio and turns it into that list of numbers for you. For example, take a product description in your e-commerce store or articles in your blog or images in your gallery. We will run them through an embedding model, could be Cloudflare Workers AI, OpenAI, Cohere, or any of your favorite embedding model that you have. Example input will be red running shoes with foam sole. And we will get the output embeddings, which will be 0.12, 0.45, 0.67, which will be a vector of hundreds of numbers. We store those vectors in Vectorize. Insert once, similar to /insert, route you tested. Attach metadata like the product URL, ID or title so you can fetch it later. When a user searches or uploads something, that is take their query, text cells or image, run it through the same embedding model to get a new vector. You use the returned metadata to pull the actual product article, image and display it. Example will be for e-commerce search, insert phase, take each product description, get embedding vector, store and vectorize with product ID. And where do these index numbers 0.17, 0.29, etc. come from? We never type them manually in production. They are the output of an AI embedding model. Now, in our command prompt, we need to create a matching vectorize index once. So we will use a preset dimension metric that to match the workers AI model, preset we are going to be using YouTube index, preset, CF, and it will. And all this will be there in the Cloudflare documentation. So this one already created. Let me make a new index with preset. And this created a new one. Back here in our Wrangler, we need to create a new binding because we have a new setup, and we need to add a new binding as well. And we direct underscore bind. This is what need to change it to. So this will be the binding AI. We need to have this particular setup for the preset index. Now we have to add the new index, the preset index, ensure the name is the same. And I need to add this binding AI. And I also need to update the index to TS. Now this is just for demo purposes. It's a very simple TS file I've used. But for your applications, you can make it a little more developed and enhanced. But here we need to update the code, where we'll just change this, and all this is going to be there in the blog. So just to summarize, first, I have connected two Cloudflare services, Workers AI, which turns text into numbers called embeddings, and Vectorize, a database that can search those embeddings by meaning. The heart of the code is a helper called embed text. These are the API routes that you see, host/index. This is how I will add content. I will send a JSON body with a text field. The code generates its embeddings and inserts into Vectorize with an ID and any metadata I include, like a product URL or category. Think of this as adding a new card to the library catalog. Post/seed, this one, same idea, but it will be in bulk. I can send an array of text to quickly preload demo data for the video. And get/search is the fun part, where I will pass a text query where the application embeds the query the same way and asks Vectorize for the top matches. Vectorize compares meaning, not just keywords, and returns the closest items plus the metadata I stored. So I render real results. And this embed text function, it returns a 768 length array. Now we need to deploy the code, for which we will run this command, Wrangler deploy. Okay, so it says it deployed. This particular new index is set up, and the binding AI also is there. So this is deployed and it is complete. So now with the deployment done, we can run this command where we are saying to embed lightweight waterproof jacket. It will return me this particular embedding with the sample, and these are the decibel numbers that I can use in a real world example. And if I have to do in seed, which is in bulk, I could do like this, run multiple entries, where I would be getting all these embeddings for these search categories. So you see, there was a OK is true, count 3, it inserted. This is the mutation ID that I received, and I could see the same in Cloudflare also. Now let's query for a similar item. I will run this query, where what I'm saying is based on the code, I'm searching for text visible, running, and top K is 2. And this is what I get. Okay, true, breathing runnable sneaker match. I'm getting this ID with, and this is as it is, 78 output. So I hope this video was useful in making you understand the concept of vector search, Vectorize, Cloudflare Wrangler, as well as embeddings, and how this will be used in a real-world e-commerce or AI search example. With this, again, thank you for liking, subscribing. Drop in a comment if anything is not clear. It's a complex topic. It's a new topic for a lot of people, including myself. Had to do a lot of understanding and mind shift. It is a culture shift as well. But drop in a comment on the new way of how the world will be operating and how the searchings will be done going forward. Thank you for liking, and we'll see you in the next video.